So let's say we have an, we can use a concentrator, but let's bring out a bottle of oxygen, an E-cylinder.
Hi everyone, Dr. Naveed Shah here, and before we get into the video, I want to tell you about this video's sponsor, the Delta V. Delta V is the all-in-one lung training solution with adjustable airflow. Whether you're recuperating from a respiratory ailment, rehabbing your lungs, eager to boost your lung capacity, or dedicated to cultivating optimal lung health, Delta V stands ready to accompany you every step of the way. Visit our website, deltav.rehab, or call us at 410-871-4601 to order your Delta V today. Now let's get into it.
Okay, I have here an E-cylinder. That's how big they are. It's called an E-cylinder. Want to write that down? I'm going to write that down. That's the E-cylinder. Okay, let's go over some of the basics really quick. Just basics. Okay, E-cylinder, tank. It's this height. All right. Now, I have right here a dolly. It's an oxygen dolly. You have a little locking mechanism that screws in. So I'm going to put this into the dolly. I'm going to tighten up the bracket to lock the tank in. So when if it ever falls or it turns upside down, it doesn't fall out. See? And don't worry, there's no oxygen and it's not pressurized right now. Right here's a control valve. Okay? Now, I'm going to put this E-cylinder, and take the E-cylinder, I'm going to put the control valve. Let me see, this is on the wrong way here. Let me loosen this up. Okay. We're going to pretend this is a pressurized tank. Okay. Now, control valve. On the control valve, I have my pressure gauge. I have my liter flow, my dial to dial in my liter flow. If it's 5 liters, 2 liters, 6, it goes all the way up to 25 liters per minute. So this is the high flow system. This will work a little different because it's a high flow system. But anyways, I fit it right into the E-cylinder. Tighten up my control valve. Now, what did I do wrong? I purposely did something wrong. Or maybe it was an accident. What did I do wrong? I never cracked the tank. That's a very, very good thing to do. Let me crack the tank first. And what does it mean by cracking the tank? Does anybody know? Write in the comment section. Cracking a tank means I'm going to open up the valve for a split second. Just in case there's any debris or anything in there, even with a dust cover, I'm not going to assume that it's clean. So I'm going to crack the tank. What it means is I'm going to take the control valve, the valve on top. I'm going to take this, I'm going to open it up really quickly. Psst, that's it. You just open it up really quickly and close it. Don't open up all the way. Just crack it open. There's a lot of pressure, right? So there's a lot of pressure in here. I'm going to crack it open. Okay. I'm going to bleed out any debris that might be in there. Because if I lodge that debris inside this control valve, then that debris might occlude that hole and there will be no airflow coming through. All right? So I always want to make sure I crack the tank first. Now I'm going to fit this in, take my control valve, and I'm going to tighten the control valve on it. I'm going to open this up all the way. No, not like scuba diving. What should I do? Just open it up. Quarter turn is all you really need. Quarter turn. Okay. Now, the pressure on here says 2,500. All right. So my PSI, pounds per square inch, equals 2,500 PSI. Okay. This right here is what kind of cylinder? E-cylinder. What's the tank factor of an E-cylinder? Does anybody know? If you're going outside, you're going for a trip and you have an E-cylinder, you should know this information basically in the back of your hand. You should know this information unless your DME company or the clinicians didn't tell you that information. All right, E-cylinder is 0.12 0.28. Please write that down. 0.28. I'll go over all this, don't worry. Okay. So, the pressure, when I open up the valve, I'm looking at the pressure on the gauge, and it says 2,500. The E cylinder, the tank factor, is 0.28. I can round up and just put 0.3, but I'm gonna do it exactly. I want to be dead on accurate. Okay. Ironic how I said that, dead on accurate, because if it's not, then I'm just joking. I'm kidding. All right. So I have my E cylinder, which is tank factor of 0.28. My PSI is 2,500 PSI. How many liters of oxygen are you going to be using? Let's say 2 liters per minute. 2 liters per minute. Okay. And my travel. So I have to travel from here to North Carolina, let's say, and it'll take 3.5 hours just to drive to one location. Just going one direction. 3.5 hours. I have a bunch of these E cylinders all filled up. I would like to know how many E cylinders should I take with me for traveling 3.5 hours, 3.5 hours to go to one location. So from point A to point B, it's going to take 3.5. That means going back, it's going to take another 3.5. All right? Which obviously we understand it's 7 hours altogether. Okay, so 7 hours. 7 hours altogether. Should we add in the possibilities of traffic? Yes. How much time should we have for traffic? Well, I always say for 1 hour of driving, always accrue 15 minutes minimum. Just every hour. Depending if you know your location. If you know that, hey, at 5 o'clock or at 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, traffic is built up, then you have an advantage because now you know how bad traffic is. If you don't know, you can always do your little research. But let's say in total, let's see, 15:45. I'll say 45 minutes here, 45 minutes here. Okay. And you know what? What if we have a flat tire? Is there a chance? Yeah. So let's add on total. Total time to add into here is, let's say 2.5 hours, just in case. Maybe I have to make a pit stop to get something. Maybe I have to go to the bathroom. You know, there might be some traffic. So 7, 8, 9.5 hours. 9.5 hours altogether is what we're going to have to travel with. We're going to have to travel 9.5 hours altogether. Okay, so my PSI is 2,500 on this tank. My E cylinder is 0.28. I'm using 2 liters per minute continuously. Okay, going one direction is 3.5. Going the other direction is 3.5. Obviously, going back, and then I'm also adding in, just in case there's a flat tire. How much time does that usually take? And if there's any traffic, I'm adding in 45 minutes to each. Okay. And maybe a little bit extra for pit stops. So altogether, I have 9.5 hours. How many tanks should I take with me? So let's grab our calculator. All right. So I'm going to take 2,500. 2,500. I'm going to multiply it by 0.28. And that's going to give me 700. Okay? Now, I have 700. All right, so I have 700. So what I did was I took 2,500, multiplied by the tank factor, which was 0.28, okay, which gives me 700. All right, then I'm going to divide by the liters per minute, which is 2. Okay, so divided by 2, I got 350. So I have, let's see, 2,500. Okay, that's my PSI. Tank factor. And I'm using 2 liters per minute. Okay, so what is that total? That's in minutes. It's in minutes. So 350 minutes. I'm going to divide that by 60. 5.83. 5 hours 83 or 83 minutes. So on this one e-cylinder at 2500, it'll take to deplete the tank. Oh, by the way, I forgot about something here. I am human, you know. On this regulator, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, I didn't expect it to be that much. 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Okay. So 400 psi on here. The needle enters the red zone. What does it mean when the needle enters the red zone? Am I getting close to being empty? No, you're empty. You're empty. Because it takes, for this regulator, it takes 400 psi for it to work. So, the actual psi should be 2100. Did you see that? Because that's the needle, I'm looking at the red, and I see 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. Each line is 100. So, there's 400 in there. It takes a certain pounds per square inch to make this regulator work. And if I take a look at it, it has to be at least 25 liters a minute. O2 regulator, 50 psi before use. Red zone 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 is empty. Okay. It needs at least a 50 psi source. With 400, you think, okay, that's plenty. But according to this regulator, empty is considered 400. So 2100 is the actual. So let's actually do that the right way. So I take my 2100, multiply that by what? The tank factor, which is 0.28. And that's 588 divided by 2, because that's 2 liters per minute nasal cannula. That's going to give me 294 what? Minutes. Divide that by 60, and I'm at 4.9 hours. Okay, 4.9 hours. Should I round up and just say 5 hours? No. You want to be dead on accurate. This is your life we're talking about. You want to be dead on accurate. 4.9 hours. Okay. How many tanks should I get? Well, obviously, if it's for one tank gives you 4 hours and 4 hours and 4.9. So tank 3,000 on that. All right. So see. So should I bring 5 tanks? What do you think? Well, if you did the math, of course, you would notice you only really need 3 tanks. Okay. Why do I have an extra tank? I mean, technically, it's 9.5 hours. This is 4.9. All I really need is 2 tanks. Why do I have an extra tank? Just in case. You just have a backup, just in case. Now, you have 3 tanks that you have to bring with you. Where do you put the tanks? In your car. Where in your car? Never the trunk, ever.
Yeah.
Why not? Okay.
I know the answer in the summer
It happens
months.
6 times a year on average that cars blow up because the regulator, as the tanks are rolling back and forth, sometimes the regulator opens up and it lets pure oxygen there's pure oxygen in there. It allows pure oxygen to go in there, and then of course you just cause a little bit of ignition and the whole thing blows up. I know it's not funny. It's not funny, but that it does happen 6 times a year on average. That was the latest one a few years ago. I'm not sure what the current statistics are. Never in the trunk of the car. You definitely want them laying down, if possible. If you have more than 1 tank in your car, 1 tank is probably okay. But if you have 1 tank in your car, you don't want it in a trunk. You want it either in the back seat or something. Okay. You could also actually put a seatbelt around it. Okay, you could put a seatbelt around it, but you don't want them in your trunk. And if you have them laying down, let's say in the bed of your truck or something, I think that's fine because it's open space, right? It's open, it can vent. If you do have it in the back of your truck, you definitely want to have some kind of cushioning in between tanks just in case they hit each other. And just in the back seat is fine. Front seat, that's fine too. But just make sure that temperature, you don't want a high temperature. I'm not talking about you yourself. If you have a temperature, you go to the hospital, of course, right? Or you call your doctor if you're getting sick. But I'm talking about the inside cabin temperature. Can't let it exceed a certain temperature. Even a small increase in temperature, the expansion of the tank, the pressure will start increasing, but tank pressure, it's...
So you want to be
nothing
aware.
to play with.
So you want to be aware of the heat in the car as well.
Oh, of course. What happened was, why you don't leave them in the trunk is that they'll open up sometimes they'll crack open when you're driving, and as soon as you turn on that the trunk opener, once you turn that on, if it's electric, it can cause enough static and cause enough electricity to actually explode. If there's a lot of water vapor, let's say you went inside your car and it's, let's say, 0 degrees Celsius, okay, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's say it's 32 degrees, okay, and there's some condensation, or maybe you had let's just say you had a humidifier or something that created some vapor. Well, the condensation or even the water vapor might be cooled when you leave the car, might cool down too much and might freeze the cylinders itself, especially the control valve. So humidity is an issue with these control valves, because if you have too much water in there and that water freezes, it might occlude the orifice. But I haven't really seen that happen too often. Through my experience of 25 years in this, I might have only seen two times. That has actually happened 2 times. I remember it was 2 times. One was actually a liquid oxygen reservoir. Liquid oxygen versus gas oxygen is different. These are things that save your life, but just like anything, like let's say you have a knife to cut meat, or you have a knife to cut some vegetables or something like that, right? Can that kill you? That knife? Of course it can. Would the pain be horrible? Yeah, of course, right? But it's how we use it. We educate ourselves on what not to do. Right? So anything that you have it can be potentially harmful to you. A pencil can be harmful to you, right? So I know a tank sounds scary, but if you just really understand that these are things that we handle all the time, it's not as scary as you think they are. But if you're using something not properly, of course, it could cause a lot of adverse effects. Just like sodium, you have too much salt, what happens? Kidneys start shutting down a little bit, right? Fluid retention. Too much of anything will hurt, right? Too much temperature will hurt. Too low of a temperature will hurt you. Too high of a temperature will hurt you. There's a lot of reasons. So don't be afraid of something like a tank, but just be cautious of what to do and what not to do. Now that I'm giving you some information on what to do, especially a tank factor, which is a very important part, especially when you're traveling in the winter or any time, really, not just the winter.